It just kind of sits there for a minute and then gives me this message.
Hey everybody, we are back this week with an unexpected video. It's not exactly what we planned, but we're fixing to take off and go to Disney again.
Yes.
So we'll be bringing you what we're doing there, and again we're going to show you, we're staying at a more moderate value resort this time, and so it'll show you some differences in the cost there.
We'll show you that in 2 weeks.
Yep. So we was getting ready to head out there, trying to get everything put together, and the backup camera went out in the car.
Yes.
And although, you know, like I say, I mean, we back up campers and everything like that. We don't have to have it, but it is a nice convenience.
And when you've had it, you kind of get used to it.
Yeah. And so, you know, to take it to the dealer, I heard other people get quoted, you know, anywhere from $800 to $1,000. And I replaced the one on my truck a few years ago.
Right.
Obviously, it's a little bit easier to get to than this one.
This one's a little bit of a mess.
But we decided just to do it ourselves. So we ordered another backup camera off Amazon.
Link will be below.
Yeah, and like I say, you can get the Ford one. The Ford camera is about $400. We ended up going with an aftermarket camera just simply because it was $57.
Yep.
I watched some other videos where other people reviewed the camera. It's not quite the quality of the Ford one, they say, but that's a huge difference in price.
Well, and for us, the backup camera, it's not something we use exclusively. It's just to kind of give us a general idea and as like a, no pun intended, as a backup.
Yeah. And so we're going to give it a shot. We'll see what it looks like. If it's terrible, we may end up ordering the Ford one or whatever, but I think it'll do for what we want it to be. And fighting rain today. Now the sun's decided to come out. It's been thunderstorms here all morning, but we're trying to get this knocked out before we take off to Disney, so that's what we're going to do today. So stick around on this video, and I'm going to show you step by step what you got to do to get in here. This is a 2013 Ford Escape Titanium, and we'll show you how to get in here and do it and save yourself a bunch of money.
For sure. So here's what happens when I try to start my car up. Everything comes up like normal, but then when you put it in reverse, there is no backup camera that's coming up. It just kind of sits there for a minute and then gives me this message. So, let's go fix it.
Alright guys, unfortunately to get to this camera, which is right here, you would think there would be a way you could pop it out right here, but there's not. We've got to come in here and take all of this stuff off. So we got to pop this handle off. There's 2 screws right here. I think they're T25 screws if I remember right. We got to take all this trim off, take this trim off, and then I think there's some 10mm bolts that we got to take the outside shroud off, and then 1 screw to get the camera off. So that's what we got to do. I did end up buying these trim tools. They was cheap. I think I got these for like $8 when I bought the camera. You know, I've got some pry tools and like that, but most of mine's all metal, and I didn't want to scratch everything up. These are plastic except for this one, and I don't think I'll need this one from what I've seen on most of these clips. So just to keep from scratching everything up, I did buy these. You know, if you don't have some of these might be pretty handy.
Even with it, it's dark.
So as you're taking these off, you'll see these are the little clips that are popping out. They have those little metal clips on there. That's what actually makes it clip in up in here to these slots. So just beware, you know, sometimes these clips pop off. If they do, just get a pair of pliers, plug them out, and put them back on here. Okay guys, these two screws right here was not Torx, they was just a regular Phillips. Everything I had read online and everything said they was T25 Torx, but they wasn't. As you can see, as soon as you take those two screws off, that loosen this up. It's clips the rest of the way around, so now we just got to get in here and pry all this off. Okay guys, ours has the automatic lift gate, so you can mash the button and it's powered. Titaniums and stuff has those. Some of the lower model trims don't have that. So if you don't have that, you ain't got to worry about this little button. But when we took this off, this was wired into that. I was trying to find the release button to release the wiring harness. It's actually right back here on the back. But in doing that, when we was fighting it, this whole button just popped out. It just clips into the big metal, the big plastic shroud here. And so that came out. So that works too. But if you do have to try to get that out, I was trying to unplug it up here thinking this was it. It's actually right back here at this very end right here. And you have to push in this little clip to get the wiring harness to release. Alright guys, like I said, now we've got to take where the outside trim is, where it says the forward part, right above where your tag lights and all that is. We've got to take that off to get to the camera part. It's 4 10mm nuts. You will need a deep well socket because the screws are really long. Ironically, I didn't even have to use the ratchet. It was only finger tight. But there's little holes here that you have to go through to get to them. So you kind of have to go up and through there to get to the nut. And there is 4 of them. So now we got those 4 nuts off. I do know there's supposed to be a clip in here that is kind of a pain to get it to release. Let me see if I can get one of those pry bars. See the clip, but I can't get it to turn loose. There it goes. So you got a clip over here, clip here, and a clip here. This one right here is the one that wants to stick so bad. I guess this is a clip too. So maybe that was the culprit. But that was the hardest one to get off right there. And once you get that in the release, it pops right off. Now we can get in here. The camera's actually right here. So if we flip this over, you see there is a screw right here. This holds this, it's kind of like a little bracket that holds the camera in. This is the plug for the camera right here. So we're going to unscrew this, take this bracket out, and then we'll figure out how to get this wire unhooked here. Now, there is some speculation, and I haven't seen it done yet, guys, that you can pop this camera off from the outside. If you notice, there's 2 clips here, and then it hinges here to pop down. My worry is, though, that bracket that we just took off sets in here, and there's a little lip right here that this thing sets in, and so it's got to go in there and connect in. I got this other wire in my way here, but it goes in to hold that camera in place. You see that camera's super loose without it. Well, that screws in to this piece right here. You can see where it screws right here. So my worry was, the reason why I didn't want to try it is, one, you see there's real big teeth right here on this clip. So I don't know how you can get a hold of that from the outside to pop that off. You know, you might be able to pry it enough and it slip through. But if you break these, then that whole camera assembly is just, you know, you're going to have to buy this whole thing then, and who knows what that would cost, because I'm sure that's a dealer only option. But my second fear was, with this being in here against the camera and it being held in by a screw, I wasn't sure that the camera, even if you got that loose, would it actually even pull out, because it's kind of wedged in there against the camera. Like I say, some people claiming you can do it. I didn't want to risk it, so we took everything else off. And I honestly, you know, to take all this other trim off wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I figured it would take 20 or 30 minutes to take that off, and it took 5. So there's our little camera. Again, we got to take this wiring harness off. Looks like it unclips. Yep, right there it is. That pops up, and then it comes right off. You can see how that clips onto this right here. So all you got to do is pry that up a little bit with your finger. Camera comes right off. Alright guys, so here's our new camera. We did take the lens cap off of it. Had a lens cap on there. Looks pretty similar. There's a few subtle changes. You can see right here in the lens. This right here looks just a little bit bigger than this square, so I'm hoping it fits in our hole okay. But other than just a few little things, it looks pretty much the same. So we'll see if we can't get it fit in there. We'll plug it up, and fingers crossed it works. So we'll go ahead and hook the wire up first. That way I can make sure it clicks in there. And it looks like it fits okay. So I think we're in business, guys. We'll get our clip, put it back in here, and screw everything back in, and we'll test it before we put everything else back together. Alright guys, we put that little bracket back in there. Again, it's got the little tooth right there. It just fits in between these rails, and that holds the camera down there securely. We put our screw back in there, and everything looks good. It's nice and secure. It's not wiggling. So easy peasy. Alright, you can see that clip pop back into place there. So that kind of holds it in place for you, so you can raise it up and get the nuts back on the inside. We did test it real quick inside before we pop this back on. We do have a camera. Hopefully it's going to be kind of at the same angle as it was before. There's really no adjustment in that, so there's not a lot you can do about it. I'm just hand tightening these guys because that's the way it was when I found it. I am sure there's some reason why it was that loose. I would say if you over tighten it, you'd probably stand a good chance of breaking that piece off. Alright guys, we got this cover popped back in there. You kind of have to get it over this little lock assembly here, and then on each corner you can kind of see there's some guide rods before the clips go in. Once you get those two clipped in, then it's just a matter of pushing all the way across to push the other clips in, because they was 7 or 8 clips across this thing, I think. But you can kind of tell when it clips in. Not a big deal there. We put our 2 screws back in here on the handle. There's only one way to go in, so there's no way to mess that up. If it don't fit one way, just flip it over and it goes in. And then this is just a little cover that goes over here. So we'll pop this in, and then we'll actually lower it down and, you know, click the gate closed and all that. And we'll check out the camera again just to make sure everything's working before we put the last few trim pieces on. Alright, good to go. Alright guys, we got everything put back together back there. We wanted to try to check out the camera one more time. We figured out one thing, and it's funny because I saw this in other videos we watched doing this. When we first tested the camera, before we put anything back together, any bolts or nothing like that, when we put it in reverse, the grid lines wasn't there. And we had saw where other people had commented when we researched before we did this, that sometimes it takes a little while for it to learn. That's not it. What it is, when we tested it, we had the rear hatch up. Because again, we still had everything apart, so I just had it kind of laying up there, and I was holding it while she got in to check the rear view camera to make sure it worked before I bolted anything back together. When the rear hatch is up, no grid lines. As soon as I bolted everything back in there and we closed the hatch back down to check it, put it in reverse, grid lines and everything comes back on there just like normal. So here's the end result. So now you can see the grid lines and everything's back on there. It is a little more whitewashed in this camera, but the grid lines still turn for your turning. We'll have to go out here to the parking lot and make sure that still lines up properly, but I think it will. The main difference I see is it's a little bit brighter, which I think there's a brightness button on here. I can go turn that down a little bit. I'll check that out. But if you notice, you can kind of see the tag right here at the bottom, where the old camera, you couldn't see the tag there. So it's a little bit wider or broader view than what the old camera used to be. But again, a Ford camera was right at $400. It's about $399 everywhere I looked. This one right here, I think we spent $57 on, if I remember correctly.
Well, and the grid lines are more washed out unless you are straight in line. If you're straight in line with your backing up, if your steering wheel's straight, the colors come back brighter.
Yeah.
So that's like your indicator that you're in line.
Well, but I was even talking about even the picture quality is a little. You can tell a difference. Is it worth $350 difference? In my opinion, no.
No.
But again, that's for you guys to decide. But at least we show you kind of what it looks like, and so you can kind of get a good idea. And installation was super easy. I thought it would be a real pain in the butt to get all those the plastic pieces off. I'm always worried about breaking these little plastic pieces and everything, but they came off super easy, no problems with any of the clips. And, you know, I'd planned on at least 30 minutes just to get all the plastic pieces off, and it took like 5 minutes. It was a piece of cake, especially with those little tools I got. I mean, it just popped them right off. Alright guys, that does it for another week. And you know, like I say, it's kind of an unexpected video this week, but something we felt like we needed to get done before we took off on a trip. We just kind of wanted that backup camera just for safety, especially in some of these top parking lots that we go to and stuff like that. So I hope that helps you out. I hope anybody that's going to do that. I mean, hopefully it saves you some money. Like I said, we did it for, even with the tools and stuff, I think I got $60 in it. Versus if you take it to the dealership, I was getting quotes between $800 and $1,000. That's a huge difference.
Yep.
That's more Disney for us.
Yes.
So, like I say, stay tuned. Like I say, we're fixing to take back off to Disney, and we'll give you all the details on that, on what we spend again. And again, if you hadn't already, please subscribe. We are getting our numbers up, but we still got a long way to go before we want to get there.
Well, and if you like the videos, give us a thumbs up. That shows us what you like, what you don't like, and lets us helps us to bring you things that you want to see.
Yeah, and don't forget, we do have our website up and running. It's ourroundaboutlife.com. And anything in any of our videos that you see, we have links on Amazon to everything where we purchased it at.
Yep, you just go to the website, ourroundaboutlife.com, hit the shopping tab, and underneath that shopping tab, you'll see all of the affiliates that we work with.
Yep, Larry says he'd appreciate it.
See you next time, guys.